It's finally November 15th, so the delayed patch has come through to live. We're going to go over the hero changes. There's a surprising new one they added. Discuss what you should expect to happen in the meta. But first, the start of the patch notes features some very interesting updates. Competitive play and matchmaking. We're continuing to monitor the health of competitive play and matchmaking across Overwatch 2, both for returning and new players. We've made numerous tuning adjustments on the server for both the initial and continued determination of a player's skill tier and division, many of which will become even more noticeable at the start of Season 2. Ranked mode has been under some extreme scrutiny, for one, because it seems to produce quite lopsided matchmaking oftentimes, and since most of the information is now intentionally hidden from the players, it's very difficult to discern what's going on, am I at the right rank, is it working properly, and of course Blizzard has already admitted that it hadn't been working properly in some cases with the Bronze 5 placement problem. So we might expect bigger changes come Season 2, which is rapidly approaching, to be honest. December 6th is just 3 weeks away. This sentence is super packed with information. We've made numerous tuning adjustments on the server for both the initial and continued determination of a player's skill tier and division, set in the context of both returning and new players. That's really complicated because, of course, returning players had an intentional soft reset on their SR. For your initial placements, we know that there are significant boosts based on either performance or win streaks. And then the continued determination is when you replace, when those boosts start to fade over time. All the while remembering that the matchmaking isn't supposed to pay attention to your SR anyway. But they're saying it in this post as if skill tier and division was important to your MMR, which we know it's not, because MMR is the invisible number that is used to matchmake you behind the scenes. I just feel like Blizzard is almost intentionally giving mixed information about this. Because which is it? Do they need to tune the matchmaking? Or is the matchmaking working as intended and it's just the skill tier and division representation that lags as it's kind of intended to? There's been a lot of hand waving going on with ranked. I have more I want to say on the subject, but we'll move on with the patch notes. They also say here, we've increased the precision of our queue time estimates for each individual role in role queue. I will say that oftentimes I get presented with a queue time that isn't accurate. Like often it says it's going to be a lot longer than it ends up being. That's usually my experience. So those numbers haven't been so reliable. We'll see if that actually improves that. Next up is the defense matrix. Remember, this is their multi-pillared, multi-pronged attack against hacking, toxicity, and bad behavior in game. They call it defense matrix. The audio transcription feature has been added with a limited rollout for PC players in select countries. As a piece of our defense matrix initiative, audio transcriptions allow us to analyze a transcript from a temporary voice chat recording of a reported player. Players will now see a notification when entering voice chat for the first time during a play session, indicating that voice chat may be recorded. Make sure you report as close to when disruptive behavior occurred to maximize this feature's effectiveness. Once reported, a temporary audio recording will be used to make a text file transcript through text-to-speech programs. Sorry, that's speech-to-text programs. I normally see it the other way around. This isn't a Sir Swag video. No one listens to the temporary audio recording, which is quickly deleted after being transcribed. Transcriptions are only made for reports of disruptive behavior in public voice channels, which includes team and match chat. Party chat is excluded, or group chat in Overwatch. Next, crossplay and aim assist. This is a huge controversial issue that Blizzard stood defiant against for quite a long time, so it's surprising they're changing their tune on this one. They say, we made a change to aim assist in crossplay, which is PC and console lobbies. If you play in a crossplay game now, aim assist is enabled in all matches where console players are allowed to play with PC players, which includes all modes except for competitive play, because you can't crossplay with competitive play. You can with other consoles, but not with PC. There's a console pool and a PC pool for competitive. They're separate. But for quick play and arcade and everything else, you can get mixed lobbies. And now you will have aim assist enabled. They give a justification here, and I don't like the language of this at all. In our data, we found many groups were crossplay groups between PC and console players. This meant if you were playing on console and grouping with players on PC, you were opting into a bad experience for yourself to play with your friends. Also, if you had a group that was primarily console, but one of your friends was a PC player, you had to leave the PC player out to have a good experience. We'd like to reiterate, at this point, aim assist exists only on console players. Players who play on controller while on the PC platform will not have aim assist features available. We'll be monitoring the deployment of this change carefully and making changes quickly if needed. I feel like they didn't need any data at all to know that this was the case. In the Overwatch 2 era, I thought Blizzard learned how to make an apology, but these last few posts just have been missing the mark for me, because the language here explains it to these players as if Blizzard figured this out for you. We checked the data, and it turns out playing against mouse and keyboard users, losing aim assist kind of sucked, and nobody wanted to do it. And is it really that big of a deal when you're playing in match-made games in quick play anyway, or just for fun in the arcade modes? Onto the hero changes. First up, nerf to DVa. Her spread has been increased, and her booster's impact damage has been decreased. Though while in baby DVa form, you will call mech faster. The devs say DVa felt too deadly after the last round of changes given how resilient she can be with her improved defense matrix. While we anticipate that this won't change the matchup between DVa and Winston, it may make some of the heat-seeking missile kills she can get on squishy characters a little bit less reliable. For me, I think the biggest beneficiary of these nerfs is support characters, as they were the easiest prey for DVa's heat-seeking missile playstyle. And the key thing to remember as playing DVa, with the increased spread and lower burst damage overall, you'll need to be at closer ranges when performing a dive onto a target. Reason being, with the bigger spread, you're gonna have far less medium range effective damage as you close the distance. And distances before, where you could thrusters towards them, and even if they try to run away, you might still have enough damage to get the elim. Now they'll have some time to retreat where they otherwise would have probably just fallen. So you want to decide to do that a little bit closer is the point, and you still will probably have the same desired effect as long as you're close enough to the hitbox. Next change was to Zarya. These are quite significant, I feel. Because her barriers are all on a shared cooldown, these apply to both. Barriers will only have 2 seconds now and have an 11-second cooldown, meaning that the gaps of time in between bubble usage is more significant, and it starts to stack up a ripple effect onto your third and fourth bubble. I think as players started to see that the Overwatch 2 meta is like all in on the squishy battle or all in on the tank battle, Zarya has the benefit of having either playstyle, which means she's just going to be a great ranked tank almost no matter what they change these numbers to, unless they giga nerf her, which I don't think they're going to do. Bubble has very unique properties where it ramps up for a late fight, which with indecisive random teammates happens a lot, but also as there's more status effects in the game, having a cleanse on your tank is quite significant. Saves you from a lot of stuff. But in any case, I feel like this nerf will send Zarya from easily one of the dominant characters in the entire game to strong, but maybe not so much of a must pick. A big beneficiary from this nerf is going to be Roadhog, who in these timing windows can get picks and even burst down Zarya's head between these bubble charges. Keep in mind, in a Kiriko-based metagame, enabling a character that otherwise gets countered by disables has quite a lot of power. We also might expect, with Zarya going down, some really aggressive DPS picks might lose some power as well. Reaper and Genji are ones that are expected due to how close and in your face they like to play, and receiving bubbles was a way to enable them. I also think it was a way to counter Genji, but I seem to be in the minority in that opinion. Since we mentioned him, let's move on to the Genji nerfs. Shuriken maxed ammo reduced from 30 to 24, and damage goes down from 29 to 27, meaning that 3 headshots with an ult, fire, and melee no longer is enough to eliminate a target. You will need the swift strike. In addition, the developers say Genji has benefited from the move to 5v5, changing to a single tank, and the reduction of crowd control has removed a lot of obstacles for Genji. However, he hasn't received tuning updates since he wasn't actively in the meta until launch, an initial decision based on our general preference to avoid preemptive adjustments when possible. These changes will bring Genji more in line with the other flanking damage heroes like Tracer and Reaper. A lot of players hate this change, and I just want to remind, like, I've always been a fan of tuning things down, because the weaker a skill set is, the stronger the player needs to be to use it. Now, the problem with Overwatch is, like, there's always something easier around the corner to pick. So if you just make something weak, it just won't get picked. But in general, I like how much execution is required to play Tracer and Reaper. And I think a world where the DPS heroes performed that way would be a better one. But of course, the absence of a Sojourn nerf in this patch has a lot of players scratching their heads. While I understand Blizzard's reasoning on it, the execution had me really scratching my head, because they forced out a patch for Owl to play on, but it was based on the ranked style changes that is for the mass player base. So why even rush an Overwatch League patch if we're not going to get it until today? So this is the patch that the pros were playing on in the Overwatch League, but it was so horribly unbalanced that only 5 heroes got picked the entire time, and teams didn't have enough time to practice. It's like these decisions are very short-sighted oftentimes, and have the weird combination of being rushed and slow at the same time. I'm trying to be patient with this kind of stuff, trying to remember, of course, even if I or you got every single change we wanted, it wouldn't be perfect or universally praised anyway. So there's not a way that they can tune to make everyone happy all the time. It's just that I have the expectation that on the free-to-play business model with frequent updates, that we should not have the same expectations from Overwatch 1, which was things were literally ignored, or the devs were utterly incapable of knowing how to handle balance problems. So while I admit it is really hard to look at a hero like Sojourn, who underperforms for most players and overperforms at the top tier to a crazy degree, but it's also the way they designed her. The thing I hate the most is her incredible movement, while also being a sniper, breaking the rules of the game. What they said they're going to do, probably in Season 2 it seems like, is buff up her sustained value, so maybe like her primary fire, while nerfing the railgun, so that her performance kind of evens out at all the tiers. On one hand, that doesn't sound like that should have been hard for them to try to do, right? Why is that going to take months? On the other hand, though, and the thing that I keep trying to remind everybody is that there's going to be an OP hit scan in this game at every stage of the game, pretty much. And it would have been Tracer if they kept her damage levels at the way they were. The only reason we're not complaining about Tracer dominating the game is because they giga nerfed her. And mark my words, as soon as Sojourn gets nerfed, you're going to start to realize how oppressive a character like Widowmaker can be. And this never ends. It was Soldier to begin with, and after a nerf to him and a buff to Sojourn, it became her. Range hit scan in this game is going to be strong, and it's going to be impossible for them to balance keeping supports alive, but also rewarding the skill of clicking the head. Because the problem they have here is, like, a character like Genji is the best to go hunt down a ranged hit scan, but he also farms any backliner, including supports. So Blizzard's left in a catch-22, because any nerfs to the flankers with the intention to make support feel playable also is going to just make them die to the ranged hit scan anyway. Next, a surprising change to Junkrat, where his steel trap gets a nerf. The arming time has been increased from half of a second to 3/4 of a second, and the trap duration has been reduced from 3 to 2.5 seconds. Okay, Blizzard, what's your fascination with Junkrat trap? Okay. They nerfed it in the beta, everyone complained, so they reverted it. Now they're nerfing it again. This comes out of left field for me. But I will admit, Junkrat is a character that is completely ignored by high-level players, commentators, and content creators. Meanwhile, is insane in the average tier of play. He is a menace, and one of those skill floor, skill ceiling type problems, where while yes, in GM, you might be worried about a Sojourn headshotting you to one-hit kill you, the big bursts of damage that Junkrat just spams out has been one-shotting and decimating players all over the place. And you know I hate to be the guy to say I told you so. My prediction on Junkrat, I think, has come entirely true. That he is the Doomfist of Overwatch 2. He makes very similar plays with BS rollouts and combos that burst unsuspecting players and get the most cheesy, easiest kills possible, but is incredibly unviable at the highest tiers. So good luck balancing that, Blizzard. Next changes to Sombra hack ability lockout duration has been reduced from 1.75 to 1.5 seconds. You can no longer chain hack, or at least you have to wait for the hack to subside if you want to target them for hacking again. You can't do it while they don't have abilities, which many a defenseless tank will be happy to hear. And the hacked enemy damage multiplier has been reduced from 40 to 25%. I think this helps a lot of weaker heroes be less weak. For example, Tracer and Doomfist certainly don't like being hacked. And the hacked enemy damage multiplier being reduced from 40 way down to 25% means in general, a lot of tanks won't feel like they insta-die to hack anyway. And a backliner like Zenyatta will feel like they might finally be able to escape spawn. Though with how mobile the game has become, it's hard to know whether these numbers are enough to make a significant change in that department. I tuned into the Group Up podcast recently, where they discussed many things about all the roles and the state of the game and balance in general. A dev from Team 4, Gavin, frequents the chat and answers questions that are brought up on the show oftentimes, and offered comment on many of the things from today, but perhaps most importantly, stating that they are looking at supports heavily right now. And while I think a lot of these balance changes are intended to make their lives easier, there might need to be a bigger, widespread change, which maybe just the DPS passive changing might be enough. But next up, a change to Kiriko. Swift Step invulnerability duration has been reduced from 0.4 to 0.25 seconds. The dev said this led to confusion, as when she appears on that teleport, she actually can't take damage for this duration. So now it's super short, the window of that. Let me know your thoughts on everything we discussed here today. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave it with a like, and don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon to actually get notified when our new videos come out. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.